Another Sunday, another case of the Scaries to start work week. Welcome to the newest edition of the Sunday Scaries. We have all your gore, lore, and more, covering all the latest horror happenings, slicing open all the latest horror news, and dissecting it bit by bit, finding all those juicy innards. Pour yourself a nightcap and turn your fright lights while we take you on a tour of terror.
What's up? What's up? We are back.
Hi,
It is
guys.
Sunday. What's happening,
Happy
everybody?
Sunday.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we're getting scared.
I know. It's been a heck of a scary weekend at the box office. We're going to talk a little bit about that because there's been a lot of fun stuff going on there in the horror space. But yeah, we got a nice little lineup of news, I would say. There's some things I'm definitely looking forward to talking about. And then, of course, we have the continuation of the Scream review series later on with Scream 4, which I'm very eager to see everybody's reactions to that. So yeah, it's going to be a fun Sunday as always. But what's going on? We got Rob here with Sunday. We are so back. Yes, sir. Violet, happy Sunday, weirdos. Welcome. Yes. What's up, Gracie? Welcome. How's it going? Smiley, how we doing? Necro, welcome. Then we got Nicholas. What's going on? And Mama Mayhem in the chat. Oh, let's see. Can't wait to hear about Saw. Yes, we do have some Saw news, some interesting Saw news for sure. That's I know some people are not happy about that, but we will save that for that one. But first things first, let's talk about our week. How we doing? Like, Adrian, how was your week this week? You I know what I did. I was mostly with Luke, so I already know that part.
We had the same week.
Yeah, just another work week. It went by really quick though. Super cold, super icy still.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny the way that my house sits in my yard. The sun never touches like my front yard basically. So it's still a giant ice sheet. Still keeping on my 10 toes, trying not to slip in my own yard. I like it though, it's a taste of home. But other than that, man, just another cold week.
Absolutely. Yep, still cold here as well. Lots of ice, lots of fun. Luke, what you got going on? Anything fun that I wasn't present for? Because we went and saw a nice little double feature this week.
Yeah, we spent a good chunk of our Thursday together watching some films. But now that was probably the biggest thing other than just trying to stay warm, to be honest. I'm gathering things and getting things in order. I'm going to start purging, I think, as we get into the spring cleaning stuff. So that's really what I'm prepping for, other than videos for the channel this coming week, which is going to be pretty busy.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming out, a lot of stuff up in the air for us. What's going on? Erica, welcome. Yes, absolutely. Very, very cold still. I think it's supposed to stay cold, too. I think, isn't there another front rolling in or something that I saw?
They said something for this coming weekend, I thought. Not.
That's crazy,
people
man.
Keep saying that.
Freaking cold in Florida. I hate it. Yeah, and it's funny because, like, again, some of those southern states just, like, it happens like a freak storm every couple of years, and they just never have, like, all of the same stuff that we do when it's just, like, a yearly occurrence. And honestly, it's been pretty mellow in Ohio the last couple of winters, but this is back with a vengeance for sure. But yeah, we did go and see a little double feature. Actually, Adrian, did you make it out to the movies at all this weekend?
I did not, unfortunately. Very fast weekend for me. Due to kind of like the road conditions and stuff on Monday, had to change Monday's shift over to Friday, which is like my only other day off. So today was my true free day.
Gotcha. Yeah, that sucks then, because there was definitely some fun ones with. You should go check out Send Help, which I guess we'll talk a little bit about. We did just post a little review about that today. I know
it looks
Rob
so good, man.
It.
I'm gonna try to get out there.
Yeah, it was excellent. I mean, like, both just for anybody who hasn't seen the review, I mean, definitely Sam Raimi's back with a vengeance, man. Like, I really enjoyed the wackiness, the over-the-top grossness with some of the sequences. Like, I know in the trailer you see a little bit of that pig scene, but seeing that in its full glory, it's just like, man, this is just classic Sam Raimi. Just there's all kinds of bodily fluids getting ejected from that animal. It is crazy.
There's so much fun in that film. We talk about in the review where it's like Sam Raimi definitely has that knack to mix comedy with horror themes, because it's a continuous onslaught of just it's a real good popcorn horror, I guess you'd say, because you can really just kind of turn your brain off and have a good time with it, because feels bigger than some of a lot of the smaller films that we've seen, and it just the way Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien play off each other in that setting, it feels expansive, even though it's only taking place. Some of those horror beats in there that they make you wait for, and if you've seen it, you know which ones we're talking about, where they make you think one thing and then it turns out to be another, which is really fun stuff.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, I don't remember what the projections were for Send Help, but I think everything relatively overperformed from what they were thinking. As far as horror movies go, being the top two, I guess top three, depending on how you feel about the Melania movie. But that's a pretty strong hold for some horror movies. I gotta admit, like 20 million for Send Help, and that I'm just looking at the current numbers on Box Office Mojo. But then the little movie that could, Markiplier's Iron Lung, which I know has kind of been divisive for some fans I've seen, pulled in a whopping 17.8 million. And we talked a little bit about that in our review, that I think that movie is estimated to have only cost around $4 million.
Yeah,
which is insane.
That's a great turnaround. Wow.
That is like insanely high. And again, I think is it just this weekend? Have we found out if they're gonna extend it at all? Has anybody seen anything?
I haven't heard anything. I think it's been such a big win, if with everything they've been saying, where it's like, oh, it's already made like 5 times its budget already. So I don't think they've mentioned it. I can't see it not getting a second weekend, because what Send Help was number one with like 20 million. Right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Send Help was 20 million, and I don't remember what its projection was. So,
but it's like looking at Send Help being 20 million, Markiplier's
17.
Yeah, and it's completely independent. It's just so fantastic. No one would have guessed that, but we had a great showing for our, at least audience wise, for ours. There were a lot of people in the theater for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I promise, Necro, it's only something. Well, actually, I remember now. He considers things in spoilers things in trailers spoilers as well. So understood. I was gonna say, because the pig scene that I'm referencing, you see pretty much all of it. But let me see. There were a couple people. I know Gracie said she was going to see it. It wasn't super my thing, but I thought it was impressive, and it was extremely beautiful looking film. Yeah, I think walking away from it, some of the aspects that surprised us the most, I mean, we were just talking about it, was like they were only on for a couple scenes, like a couple seconds of a scene, but like there were a lot of big huge, I guess you would say, set pieces, visual effects set pieces that actually looked pretty good for the amount of money that was put into the film. Like, I've seen movies that boast about having a little bit more money than that have worse looking CG. So it's kind of impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was surprised to an extent as well, but I don't know. I think it was a big win across the board, going to see both those Send Help and Iron Lung at the theater, because sometimes we sat through. It was The Mummy and something else, and I remember I was at the theater that day, and it was just like a terrible experience. So it's like always nice when you have a double feature that's pretty strong, because Send Help was such a breeze to get through, and we talked about Iron Lung of like, if it's in one location, is this going to feel just way too long? Because it does clock in just a little bit over 2 hours, but they make it work, and they just make it move along. There's like some things we could have left out, but overall they really keep the story moving.
Yeah, I think you'll be pretty impressed once you get around to checking it out, Adrian. They do make the most of the space, I would say. And I think like for someone who likes that kind of horror, like it does go very, I guess you'd say, would you say like eldritch horror is kind of where they lean into that a little bit more. So it's like, I think like if you're expecting that deep cerebral kind of stuff, like it's definitely going to play with you there, but they're doing their best to make the most with as little as they have. And I really thought it was effective. Again, I personally just thinking it could have been cut down a little bit, but again, it's made for fans. And when you're doing that, you want to give them everything. So
that's the consensus of the feedback I'm hearing out there. There's kind of some moments they take a little too long to get through, and it's a little long itself and things of that nature. Still very hyped to go see it on my own time though.
Yeah, it's going to be worth it. And I imagine it's not going to be too long before it's available on streaming. So if anybody's kind of waiting to go watch it when it hits that, I'm sure it's going to hit sooner rather than later.
I'm actually really eager to watch that one again.
Yeah, me too. I think like now I just want to like kind of study it and see
Yeah.
kind of like what I can kind of pick up and stuff, especially, with us being aspiring filmmakers and YouTubers, you got to learn from the people that are doing it right now because you got to see how they're doing. So that way, hopefully you can get it done yourself.
And I really feel like I think Iron Lung, when we look back on it in a couple of years, maybe not to the extent of Terrifier 2, but I really do feel like it's going to be a pivotal film just because of how much was invested in it, and then what the outcome of it is. It's really just second at the box office, standing up amongst a lot of these bigger films. It's wild because we thought maybe it was going to feel cheap, maybe we weren't going to really open the story up, and it was just going to feel like something that we've seen that's really low budget. But as soon as you hop into that film, that all your fears wash away because there is a quality to that film. And I think that could inspire a lot of YouTubers or just creatives in general to say, hey, I could do something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be a really exciting thing to see what he does next because I'm curious to see if he is going to go back to the self-financing route or if he's going to decide to maybe go towards, actually maybe partnering with a small studio or hell, even like an A24. I'm sure now that they've seen this, they'll be like, hey, sir, would you like $5 million? And you could do that again. Like that's what they're going to say. So, but hey, I mean, it's just all in all, a huge win for horror again. And I think I really want to round this conversation off. I know we kind of touched on this and I didn't get a chance to call you, Luke, but I think you won't be disappointed. I hope you're not. But we got to talk just about how stellar this month was for horror films. And honestly, probably the best movie month of January we have had in a long time. I'm not going to lie, guys. There was a lot of strong movies out. Everything from Primate to the Bone Temple to ending it off with like Send Help. I mean, I think really was there anything like other than the Killer Whale movie that was a huge disappointment? Because I mean, even the stuff that came to streaming, like Mother of Flies, was excellent. So it's like just a strong month all the way around.
I was very surprised by how many films I found myself being interested in seeing over the last month. I remember, man, a couple of years ago, I just felt like nothing good was coming out, or at least like, good stuff was coming out, but it was a longer wait for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's been surprising across the board. The strongest January we've had since doing the podcast. Absolutely. I don't remember a January being this strong because Primate intrigued us, and we had some positive buzz coming out of the festival, and it was like, we really want to check that one out. But it could go either way, honestly. It looked great from the trailer, and it really did live up to the hype. And then Bone Temple, again, we really like 28 Years Later, so we were really on board with that one. And I think it even produced even above our expectations, honestly, from a story perspective. I think Night Patrol was a little bit of a miss. I know.
Oh, that's
with
true.
The expectation of that one, it wasn't like a dumpster fire of a film, but it was really unsatisfying from the way that the trailer was built, the talent around it, and it just felt like something was amiss there. But I mean, like you said, Mother of Flies was a huge win. So
even Necro brought up, too bad Silent Hill can't be in this conversation. I also forgot it's only been a week and I forgot about that one. Yeah,
yeah,
like,
that one's gonna be gone out of the theater. I don't even know I didn't even see what the showtimes look like.
I was gonna say when it does hit streaming, if because I really want to get more stuff on just like Patreon, and then obviously we've been getting a lot of people and itching to open up YouTube memberships, and I want to do some stuff with that. We've been talking about doing more of these streams. I figured like for audiences there, that'd be a really fun one, considering we could have the full movie play on Patreon with us. So it's like we could all watch it together and commentate on it, just kind of like bad movies, light splattercast cinema kind of stuff. But I figure that would be good since the three of us haven't seen it. We could all get our thoughts and feelings out on it. But I'm excited to at least experience it because, again, I've heard some rough things. And honestly, when a movie gets that bad reviews, I actually get more excited to see it, just not at the theater. So,
yeah, how much of a dumpster fire could it be?
Because it's things like, because really what irks me are movies like Killer Whale, where it's so simple, it should work. You know what I mean? It's why doesn't this work? And they just fuck it up around every corner, and it just makes me mad. Because it's like this, I'm not asking for much, guys. I just want a Killer Whale movie that's entertaining like Orca. And they didn't give that to me. They gave me something boring and sad and silly and looks like it's on green screen. So
Don't we have a couple more? Do we have a couple shark films coming out this year? Or
oh yeah.
maybe one of them. One of
I
them
know
will redeem.
the one I'm mostly looking forward to, I think oddly enough, considering he has a movie coming out this upcoming week, is Rennie Harlan's new shark movie. He's also got an orca whale movie coming out too. So the man is gonna be he's gonna be basically fighting from below at this point with me, and I think he can win if he gets that shark and orca 2-for-1 special over the next 2 years.
There's
So
going to be legitimately retellings of Jaws and Orca, and he's like, "Yeah, we have a trilogy built up.
fuck it, let's go, man." All right, let's see. What's going on, movie guy? Welcome. Bring Her Back had a lasting impact, absolutely, and I do like what Gracie said here. It makes it was this one. I think it's kind of funny how many videos I've seen comparing Shelby Oaks and Iron Lungs, saying stuff like, can a YouTuber make a good horror film? As if Talk to Me hasn't existed for 2 years. And yeah, it's like that's something that I've been seeing a lot of. I mean, it's been going on since Shelby Oaks came out. Pretty much, I think like that's one of those movies that even we have said like it's it's pretty good in our opinion. I mean, like I like some of the stuff that was done, but it's also a very personal movie for us, considering we're pretty good friends with Chris. I haven't even like talked about this, but I think I'll just bring it up here. I didn't know how to bring this up, and it's a really awkward time to do it, I guess. But it's the time has passed. My son is actually in that movie. My at the time he was 3 months old, so that's why that movie has been so hard to talk about, because it is such an impactful movie to me, because my literal baby, my child, is in this movie for the rest of time. And it's just one of those things where it's like it's hard, but I did want to be honest. And I think for the most part it's a good first movie as far as horror films go. It's got some intriguing elements, but I think for what they do with things like Talk to Me, that's the caliber I think every YouTuber wants to try to get to, because that movie was just lightning in a bottle. It just came out, it's got a feeling, and it worked. It's like, yes, at the end my son is in the movie. At the end he is the well, spoilers, he's the baby. So
yeah, I think looking at the discourse, if a YouTuber can make a good film, I don't know, where when Talk to Me came out, I wasn't really familiar with the Philippos. I didn't really have a long-standing relationship with YouTube like that. I'm curious though, because I don't think they ever did film review, right? They've always just done skits, things like that, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I think Adrian and I were actually more familiar than you were with them, because we used to watch their
100%.
stuff, like, because they did the Ronald McDonald videos, right? And then
Yeah,
they did like all those special effects ones.
And I think, like coming out of something that's more of a skit based, and you do some storytelling like Curry Barker, him dumping it
I was about to say, that's another
Obsession, where it's like you do skits, so you're making that kind of content, where Chris Duckman comes from a film reviewer's perspective, where I think people are like, well, you review so many films that you should be able to make one that is going to be an A+ film, because you critique everyone else's work. I think maybe that's where the disconnect was in terms of expectations wise between the Philippos versus like a Chris Duckman or Curry Barker. I think where, I don't know, I think you can be a little more critical there in terms of the quality. I think maybe that's where people are coming from, because I think Shelby Oaks is a decent enough debut. I don't think it's anything that's going to be changing the game. Like Talk to Me for me is really, it was my favorite of the year. I'm always going to go back to it. Where Shelby Oaks was fine. It just kind of gets filed away, I think, as an adequate horror film that I probably won't go back to regularly, but it was okay to watch for the time being.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, even for me having that connection with it, it's like looking at it on the whole, it's like the movie's, it's fine. I think it would have been a bigger hit with people. I'm never calling this like saying it's going to be like a Talk to Me where it takes over the box office. Clearly there's a difference there, but like I think this would have been looked at, especially in my opinion, if it would have gotten picked up by more like a Shudder or an IFC. I think people, and if you would have taken Chris Stuckman's name off of it, and if he wasn't the person that he was and had the following that he had, and the same thing could be said for Markiplier. I think that you would have had a bit more of a, I guess you would say, honest appraisal of that movie from both sides, because clearly there's going to be people who love Chris who are just like all over the moon for him and say, oh, it's great no matter what. Then there's going to be people who hate him who's going to say it's terrible no matter what. And that's the thing that kind of sucks about that. But at the same time, the fact that we have YouTubers, not only like, again, Chris Stuckman, but like YouTube movies used to be a joke. And now they're not really a joke anymore. It's like we got Markiplier doing his thing, which is, again, a video game adaptation on top of it. And then, like you just brought up Curry Barker with Obsession. It's like that's huge. Like that movie looks incredible. Everything we've heard is that it's the next Talk to Me. And like I if that hits, man, that's a really good sign. And I think we all need to just face facts. And oddly enough, I think Chris said this the most on his like when we went to the screening for it, was that it's like that's just the future. Like people are going to be like coming from YouTube now. Everybody who's making films has grown up with YouTube as a tool. It's like that's just what it is. Every filmmaker is going to be a YouTuber eventually.
Yeah,
or an ex-YouTuber.
I think that's really going to be the nature of the beast. There's so many things you can kind of learn on YouTube, especially where people are like, oh, you don't need to go to film school because you have all these resources just at the tips of your fingers. And I think maybe that's going to be the case where we love film. We get into it to talk about film. We do want to make our own films eventually. And it's kind of like, that's what you kind of learn with reviewing is what makes a good story, how to create that fun narrative with effects or whatever you want to do. Just the beauty of its storytelling. And I think a lot of YouTubers are going to try their hand at filmmaking, especially, like I said, I think Iron Lung is going to be a pretty pivotal film when we look back probably in 5 years, especially when we're going to see some opportunities that are probably going to open up that I think, you look at Terrified 2 and how more independent filmmaking was able to get into the theaters for a weekend or have a bigger opening or studios taking a chance on them where, yeah, I think, if Shelby Oaks had maybe just went directly to Shudder, people would have, just being able to turn that on, the accessibility to it. But I think even then where that YouTube stigma is kind of being shed, because when we go back to Curry Barker, Milk and Syrup was such a big property.
A lot of people were like, that could have been a movie in the theater, just the quality it was.
And it's like being able to construct that and throw it up on YouTube to be that accessible and to have that great quality to it. It's kind of like, this is where storytellers are going to go when they don't have the money to get into Hollywood and make something on film, where it's like, hey, we can get out a DSLR, we can get out our phones, we can get out whatever we have and make a film, whether it's 15 minutes or 60 minutes, and throw it out there to an audience, and opportunities might open up that way. So it's like that's the nature of the beast. That's probably where a lot of opportunities are going to start opening up, is through YouTube. And Markiplier's Iron Lung is just a really big stepping stone to be like, hey, you have money to invest, you're probably going to get a big return. Because I don't know if I'm remembering incorrectly or not, but I thought Milk and Syrup was like $800 to make or something like that.
It was something really stupid low. It was ridiculous. And it's again another one of those that just like, and then you got to think there's a lot of short films and stuff too that have just been really great. I mean, the folks who we talked about it, even though, I have my issues with the David Gordon Green Halloween trilogy, the people who made that Halloween short film from a couple months ago, like that was seriously, like they emulated the David Gordon Green style so closely that it's almost laughable to think that like that's what Blumhouse's standard was for those movies when you think about such the iconic character that Michael Myers is. And I get its simplicity is the key there, but it's like, it's crazy to me that we can do this now for a fraction of the price and make a 2-hour plus horror film and put it on YouTube, and it looks just as good as the, what was it, like $10-11 million movie they made.
And that's where it's like I think the stigmas where we talk about YouTubers making films, that's going to go away. Just like we were just sitting here discussing how strong the month of January was, where typically it's always been January's where they throw a bunch of stuff that they don't really know how to sell and no one has interest in. I mean, we've had a couple of strong releases in January over the past couple of years, nothing like we've seen, I think, this year thus far. And I think that's an indication of where the filmmaking's going and releases are going. Because we talk about Shudder, we talk about Screenbox. How many times when we do our best of at the end of the year, they're Shutter exclusives. They went straight up
Yep.
to streaming. Rule of Jenny Penn was another one that was like straight to streaming, and stood in my top throughout my top 10 through the entire year up against some really big budgeted films. So I think just like that stuff is going away, I think being a YouTuber and going into filmmaking is going to go away just right there with it, because that's where I feel like the industry's going.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's only natural, and then it's, you know, because so much of what we do and consume our lives with is just like streaming and video content and stuff. And the way theaters are going, it's the same conversation we have all the time. It's just the nature of the beast. Streaming is going to be the primary target soon, and I think we need to really look at that as where we're going as far as like how much we're making entertainment for, because I think if we really want to like look at it now, I think like a lot of people are doom and gloom about this, where I'm trying to be positive. I'll be doom and gloom about AI. And I'll remain positive about the streaming for the most part, because like if I can get funding from a small production company to make movies that Luke and I are writing that cost, say, $5 million, I'll be happy as a clam. If I can do that for the rest of my life and just make movies that go on a Shutter, on a Netflix, it's like, as long as I'm getting to make these movies, that's all that matters. And I think like that people are watching them. So even if they don't go to a big theater, if I can have a dedicated fan base of horror fans just pop in and watch it, I'll be the happiest person alive. I mean, looking at Markiplier just this weekend alone, I don't know if you guys saw a lot of his, at least on my TikTok, a lot of his comments have been floating around about just how absolutely fucking stoked and just crying and stuff he is about how well Iron Lung performed. It's like that's what it's about, man. Like that's just to have a community embrace a movie that you make, just something you put that much of yourself on screen for, is like that's the name of the game.
It's a really interesting space, because when you really look at it, it's like we know how committed people are that love the channel and reach out and always leave us comments and make sure to show up, and that's on a small scale, where it's like you look at Markiplier, who's got, I think, millions of subscribers, and that people are going to show up just because it is him and they enjoy his work and just being able to watch him stream. But then you add on top of that how much horror fans show up for just new horror properties. So it's like you almost have double the audience of everyone's just ride or die in terms of what they're going to show out for. And I think that's great, because I think that opens up so many different opportunities for people that they wouldn't normally get. Because like I said, this Iron Lung standing up against a lot of these bigger budgeted, really mainstream studio releases is such a huge deal as to what the industry could look like in the next couple of years. And it's like, that is based on an independent video game. It's way smaller. It's not a Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or anything that a general audience is familiar with. So even that opens up the door for seeing even some smaller independent horror games being translated into the theater, because we saw it with Terrifier 2. They knew that there was an audience hungry for smaller properties, some things that are more DIY, I guess. And I think that's going to be the same here, where it's like, well, what do you got? What can you feed the system? Because we want to put it in the theater now.
Yeah, that's true. I think there's going to be something. It's an exciting time. I mean, like, I think that there's a lot to be said. Like, a lot of filmmakers, like I know Kevin Smith was very vocal about this just after COVID, when everything shut down, and just seeing things go in the last few years. He's been like, if you are a kid who wants to make a movie, it's like, if you're 20 years old, go make a fucking movie right now. Go do it. Sell it. Somebody will buy it. And then that's how you start your career, hopefully. So yeah, I'm certainly excited. It's been a good weekend for horror nonetheless. And then, oh yeah, Violet brings out Outlast and the Mortuary's Assistant are already being made into films. And yes, actually, we got an offer to cover Mortuary's Assistant, so we'll have to check that out shortly. So
fire.
Yep, we'll be getting a review out for that one. And then I did see oh yeah, apparently Gracie saw Jenny Penn in theaters, so maybe that was one of their hybrid releases.
Yeah, and that's where it's like, that's where you kind of have to shed the stigma of it just being strictly to streaming, because it's like you're seeing it released in the theater the same day that it's being streamed, even though the releases in the theater smaller, but like you could still find them. And it's like you don't have that stigma of it going straight to streaming, because it is kind of almost double dipping in a sense, where we do have confidence to an extent, but then even when it's long gone out of the theater, I remember I love being able to do those reviews. Dylan and I talk about it, where it's like we see it really early on when it is just that release at the theatrical experience, and we know it's going to be ending up on Shudder in like 2 months, and so you always know when it ends up on Shudder because it's like a resurgence in the review of people being able to actually check it out and making it more accessible. And it's great because everyone gets to find that stuff. It's like Rural Jenny Penn was something I think a lot of people found way later. Even I remember even after we did the top 10 of the year, it's like people were talking about it.
Talking about checking it out. Yeah.
Yep.
It's definitely an exciting time. And I think this was, I know, completely off topic, but I also think this is very badass. Scientific name for orca, Orcinus orca. The name originates from Latin with Orcinus meaning of the kingdom of the dead. Some translations mean demon from hell or bringer of death. And yeah, I like that a lot. And I think that would be some great titles for some great orca movies. Because like that's one of the things that's really scary about that. Like especially when I did this last video on practical effects and like just watching more orca shit. Really getting real like I guess familiar with them again is like there's really no good reason why they don't kill us. They could. they have in captivity, but like in the wild, it's like they like us. I don't know why. They have no reason to, and I'm really glad they do because these motherfuckers are scary, dude. Like I don't like them. Dude. Well, yeah, they're gorgeous animals, and they are wonderful. But yeah, no, that's we're just lucky that they don't also want to eat us. So because they're smarter than like sharks and shit. So
it could be interesting. Let's write a script where an orca grows feet. So
I already did. Like... I wrote 3 of them. It's a trilogy.
Oh, I like it.
It's called Flipper's Day Back.
You can never find the right shoe size, though.
Absolutely. Well, Luke, speaking of shoe size, why don't we get into the news?
You mean like cutting off feet?
Yes.
Anyway. Of course, you saw it on the front and center of the Sunday Scaries. There, we're going to be talking about Saw, as the rights are resigning over there at Blumhouse right now. There was a little bit of news coming out of Sundance as James Wan and Lee Winnell showed up to celebrate the release of the original. They just talked a little bit about giving, I guess, a little bit of insight of where they want to go with the franchise, even though production has not started. They got a little indication, as Juan remarked, I want to make a scary Saw, not just gory, but psychologically scarring, like what Lee and I did in the first movie. So it looks like they kind of want to harken back to that grittiness of the original film. And admittedly, I think I've seen bits and pieces of some of the later stuff, but it never really hit with me. I feel like it just lost something. And I do love the grittiness of that first film. So they said they want to stay true to the roots of what the original was, but they are aware that maybe some people haven't grown up with the Saw franchise. So they want to bring something fresh and new to it while also confirming that there is no Saw story without Jigsaw. So it does look like in some fashion we'd have to get an appearance by Tobin Bell, and whatever that may look like, as they did talk about the whole terminal cancer diagnosis and how that kind of did paint them in a corner. But I don't know. It looks like they're moving ahead with that 11th installment. Who knows what that's going to look like, especially after how big Saw X was.
It's very interesting. I mean, I feel like pre-Saw X, a lot of people would be really excited about this. But there are a lot of people who seemingly are really bummed out because, you know, Saw 11 was on the table. We kind of knew the direction they were going to go, and Saw X was happily and very positively received. Now going back and hitting the reset button, I know a couple of really big Saw fans that we follow or our followers on Twitter were very, very upset about this one this week. And on a couple other social media sites, I saw some people saying this isn't necessarily where they were hoping the series would go. I'm personally okay with it.
I think I am as well in terms of what we could get. I wasn't the biggest fan of Saw X. I think it was just a fine film. I don't think it was anything that was really pivoting the franchise into being anything more lucrative than just kind of shoehorning in the timeline where we could still have Tobin Bell alive, just so we see him back, kind of put a different spin on the story. But I didn't think it was anything that was groundbreaking, where it's like I felt like the direction thus far, if they weren't going to change anything about it, I felt like we were just going to start finding stories to add into a timeline. And it was like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, he's still alive. Now this is the spin, or that's the spin. So I felt like it was just going to get a bit tiresome after the third film in, because it seems with how big Saw X was, they found their in. They found a way to squeeze a little bit more juice out of the franchise. So I think for me personally, this is the best route to go, because I wasn't a big fan of Saw X, but don't know really where the story goes to make it feel unique. I feel like you're just going to fall back into a lot of the familiar storytelling. And I think it's hard to, it's like same with Final Destination. You can find something. Bloodlines found something to make it a little bit more interesting, I think. And you can do that with Saw. I think it's just so hard because of what we're used to and what our expectation is when we see that Saw headline.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those to me that I could this is either going to really rejuvenate things, and we are just gonna have to be like eating our words here, and just the caution of just saying like, oh man, having these guys come back, because again, I'm excited about that. I like when the original creators, especially if they haven't like handled a property in a while, do come back. We've seen it doesn't always pan out, but it is one of those things where I'm eager to see what they have, if they have a story to tell. And I would be willing to give them the shot here 100%, especially because like, so the intent here, from what I'm understanding, is to have James Wan direct again,
I
and
don't
Lee
think
Winnell write.
I think that that's the dynamic they're looking for. I don't think, at least anything that I've run across, they've explicitly
Confirmed it.
said that. But I think maybe that's what they're hinting toward. I just feel like they've acquired these rights. Has it been a year since that?
Yeah, it's about a
Been a
year
minute.
because it was last fall.
And I feel like more so that the rights just kind of fell into their lap, and they're like, hey, we have a chance to acquire the Saw franchise, rather than them being like, we have a great story, we have to try and get Saw, because it's like we haven't really seen this project move forward. And I know everyone's busy working on other things, but I feel like if this was a priority, or they already had a story started, we would have seen a little bit more go. I feel like this is kind of like, we've got concepts of an idea, and that's where we're kind of going with this, rather than we have a clear direction of what we want to do. But it's like, having Jigsaw back, that sounds promising. Harkening back to the original, that all sounds great to that people who love the franchise, and that big, oh my gosh, moment that we get. So I think, kind of keeping everything buzzing. And it's like, I don't know if this would have come out if they weren't at Sundance celebrating that screening for it. Where so they were probably just asked.
It does feel like they're kind of maybe also being a bit coy with the studio to probably try to get that floated across to work. Because it's a weird announcement. It's a very weird kind of thing. It's like there's no like it all feels very temporary or very conditional. So it's like it's kind of tough to say this is exactly what's going on. But maybe that's the intent. Maybe they did just want to see how Saw fans felt, and this was what they pitched. They were like, have the guys who made this series say, hey, we want to come back and, figure something out and do something and see how the fans feel. Because again, it's like that could have been it. And now they're seeing a good majority of like hardcore Saw fans are kind of saying, well, we really just want to continue Saw X or 11. And, I guess that's fine and all. I think what would have been more intriguing to me, and this is just me personally, is like I would like to open up the world of Saw a little bit more, and maybe have almost like a 7-esque killer. Because like with us doing our last list, spoiler alert, we talk about 7 on there for the David Fincher film. And I just rewatched it again. I did not watch it before we did their list, but I watched it after just because I enjoyed talking about it so much. And thinking about Psycho Killer and watching the trailer for that and thinking same writer, same everything, I'm like, I could roughly see these movies taking place in the same universe in different states. And if they have that same tone, it's like it could be very cool. And I just thought that's what I would like to see them do with Saw. Introduce, even if some of them are not necessarily copycat killers, but they are, they almost do like the Batman approach, where it's like Batman starts beating up thugs. So suddenly the thugs who are really crazy start saying we can come out and put on masks and be psychotic and weird. Same scenario.
You know, and I thought that I haven't seen Spiral in a handful of years, and I know that one was an underwhelming experience. And I thought that's what Spiral was going to be, like I can't remember exactly the context in the direct narrative of that, but I thought it was an inspiration from the Jigsaw Killer. I can't remember if they tie it back by the end of it or not, because I've only seen it like 2 times. But
I remember what they do, and it's goofy. It's not even like it's tied back directly, but it's I know it's one of, isn't it like his partner or something the whole
I
time?
think it's something like that. It says some sort of connective tissue, and I remember being really underwhelmed by it, and I was like, man, they had a chance to do something really fun and kind of really just open up the world if that's what they wanted to do and try to get as much longevity, because it's like when you do write one of your characters that has a terminal illness, it is just feels like, you know, if it went into remission, then you're just kind of trying, because you do paint yourself into a corner. But if that idea of Spiral was way more successful than it was, I could have seen the universe really open up with just this inspiration of characters that want to be like Jigsaw, or just other events that have affected characters, and we kind of do world building that has created some sort of monster or something like that. Could be interesting, but I don't think Spiral really hit with a lot of people.
As a man who's only seen the original Saw movie, I might have seen another one I might not remember, but I could definitely understand how repetitive certain series can get. And so I agree, you know, taking it out of where it's at or away from Jigsaw, or just like, you know, to another setting, it expands on the idea. You know what I mean? Something out of the box would be really appreciated, I bet.
I think so. I think it would be a good way to help give this series a way to move forward without having to constantly tie back to John Kramer as the source. But looking at Gracie's comment here, it's like there is a charm to that, and I think one of the things that that her comment does make me think about is that really, like, this is kind of what all the series used to do in the 80s, like Friday the 13th. No matter what happened in the last one, they figure it out for the most part. You know, Nightmare on Elm Street did the same thing. And it's like, you know, they were kind of the last modern horror series that had enough entries to say, we're just going to keep fucking doing it, until they did reboot. And then they rebooted again by going back into the series. So I see why some hardcore fans are probably more like excited to see that continue, because it is something that's kind of a dying breed these days. Everything kind of has finality now, and these ones are still kind of, whether they're for better or worse, they're still kicking.
Yeah, because I remember when Saw was just coming out every year, it's like, oh, we're getting another one. You knew really what to expect. It felt like they were just like, we have the blueprint. What other traps can we get in here and just build a light story around it? And people are here really just for the guts and gore of everything, which is really what it seemed like. I think Saw X was the first time where they tried to tell some sort of interesting narrative. For me, it just kind of felt like I don't really need a backstory to John Kramer and to see his good side, just because Jigsaw is such a badass of a character in the original film. But it's like, I understand it, and Saw was really the last horror franchise that had so many entries. It was like, oh man, we're getting another one. We're going ahead of this, you know. So it's like, I don't know. I understand that we want to, even though Saw X didn't really work for me as much as it did for a lot of people. I love being able to go to a theater where it's like a long-standing franchise, because we don't get that much. This was the novelty of going to see Halloween in the theater, because it's like, man, we actually get to go back and see something like that.
It's true. Every time a Saw movie was coming out, I remember overhearing like people getting their people together to go see it. Everybody was talking about like, how long can I last, seeing how everybody gets tortured. Basically, it was a sensation.
Yeah. Saw movies ain't shit. Like, as far as torture goes, I'm sorry, guys. There's a lot more stuff out there. You gotta give. It's not good.
Whatever, man.
But I know. I'm sorry. I'm turning into one of those edgelords. Yeah, I'm like, Saw movies ain't shit when it comes to gore anymore. But no, there's still some stuff. I mean, the first movie I still love, just in general, is like an independent like horror thriller. Like, it's really awesome. It like holds together real well. And I'll say the first three are not terrible. Like, they do try their best to stick to things. And then, yeah, once you get to 4, it's when you really start getting into the, now we're taking some bigger leaps. And I think you see that too with the traps, because the traps get less like home gadgety put together, and more like clean. I'm thinking about like Saw 3D with that big one where it's like the guys are stuck to it and they push the blade up. It's like all this
Oh yeah.
industrial equipment. It's like, damn, man, like that's a lot. So
Somebody's life's work right there.
what up, Davey? Welcome in, sir.
Davy's in the chat.
Davey.
I wonder if there will be an actual good Children of the Corn movie in the future. Such a creepy and simple premise, yet so terribly executed over and over again. It is one that seems to constantly get the boot.
I don't know what the problem is with that. It's like
I was going to say the same thing.
Sometimes maybe just with Stephen King properties, it's like you get some really bad ones in terms of adaptations, and then you get some really good ones. Children of the Corn just seems like it's so tough for people to adapt to make something that is memorable, because I don't even know how many are in that franchise.
Did you go see the last one, or did it? I know I saw it in theaters. Did you ever end up watching it?
No, I did not. Yeah, because I remember you gave that scathing review of it. I was like, damn,
that's fucking terrible, dude.
They cannot get on course.
It's one of those ones that it just drew it. I don't know, dude. It just, I don't get how they're messing that concept up, especially because like they add some visual things in that new one that I thought were really good ideas and were cool to see, but it's like the rest of the movie is so laughable. It's like, what are we doing? Like the characters are so goofy and over the top. The scenarios are too just like I think the thing is like people don't know how to use creepy kids. And it's like you have to have a real, like, you have to walk a fine line between that. And people don't know how to fucking direct creepy kids. It's like the first movie at least somewhat captures that in a lot of scenes, but like it's still not as good as like that story is in the book, where it's like, you know, it's got that hard edge to it. And I think they're always just too afraid to push it.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the issue is with that one. It just seems, I think narratively no one has been able to really crack that egg and say this,
because that's
really
a short story, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you do have room to play with that. And man, I meant to look it up while you were talking, because Children of the Corn has so many installments. I
think it's like 8 movies.
They used to always be playing on like the Sci-Fi Channel.
Mm-hmm. They have their little weekends,
and I would try to turn them on to find some intrigue to it, and it would just get a little bit boring for me, and I remember just like tuning out for it. So it's like it was just one of those franchises that I think a lot of people have issues adapting, unfortunately, because like it is pretty basic and you could really build some really good tension, but it always just seems to be like a huge miss.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I think needs desperately to get somebody who's like really ripe for the material. I mean, I think Mike Flanagan could probably knock it out, but like I think he's good with anything Stephen King. But like, I don't know. I feel like maybe it is just recency bias. If Frank Darabont wanted to direct anything other than Stranger Things episodes, then maybe he could tackle that. But I'd like to see him pretty much do anything. Bring him back for The Blob.
That'd be fantastic.
Just wanted to say I appreciate Children of the Corn Genesis a little bit.
Yeah, she's in The Ward.
Pretty creepy.
Which is very funny. I've not seen The Ward yet, but I saw that she was in that. I was like, what the hell? Her and Amber Heard. Well, thank you very much, Dusk. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you for showing up.
And yes, the Kurt. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. All good, Paula. No problem at all. Yes, there we go. Well, I think. Oh, what's this? Bought a DVD about a horror with dolls. Rip turned it off after. Oh, geez, yeah. The Dolls movie. I think is he talking about Dolls? The one from, isn't that from the 80s or the early 90s? The one that's like not Chucky. The one with the girl on the cover.
Yeah, Dolls. Yeah, you're. I was just trying to read the comment.
Oh yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. Probably that was like 1986, 1987. I think I'd cover that in my phobias list.
Absolutely.
The Dolls.
Well, talking about not a phobia, why don't we get into our next story, sir?
Sure. We'll talk about, well, we opened up with Sam Raimi, of course, with Send Help in the theaters this past week, but he also made a little bit of news talking about one of his old properties from 1990, the cult classic Darkman, when asked about if he would ever do a sequel to that. Now, it does have a few different sequels that never really live up to the hype. I think they just became direct to DVD. But in regards to him saying if he would ever do anything with Darkman, he did say, "We've got a screenplay and 2 great directors, but we're still having a little difficulty with the financing. It's always the same in the movie business." So it does sound like we do have something going on in production. He did mention 2 directors, so it doesn't look like he'll be diving back into the director's chair, at least anytime soon for the Darkman franchise. But he did mention directors Adam Schindler and Brian Neto, who do have an experience with him. He's produced a couple things with Ghost Pictures, so he does have a relationship with them. They did say back in 2024 that they did have an interest in dusting off Darkman. So we talked about Darkman here, Dylan. I finally checked that box a couple years ago. Seeing that one, and it is such a fantastic film. I think it's so much fun, especially now when we look at what we've seen with the MCU and the DCU. I think that is a property that could thrive nowadays.
I think this is a property that is going to thrive way better now than it would have a couple of years ago. Just because we are in this angsty kind of anti-superhero phase where everybody's kind of done with the MCU. You know, DC's trying to restart things and get the ball rolling, but people are kind of superheroed out. You know, superhero fatigue is kind of a real thing. But this is one of those where it's like, this movie is so, it's like Kick-Ass. It's like what's that one, Super, the one that James Gunn did. They're anti-superhero movies. This is basically, if you want to look at it, I think I said this in our podcast we did on this is Sam Raimi's audition tape for Spider-Man. And it's incredible. I love everything about this movie. I think the concept is so spectacularly crazy. I love the idea of this kind of, you know, rogue superhero vigilante who's kind of crazy, but also is just trying to, like, you know, get back at these billionaire people. And then you got crazy people like Larry Drake as the main villain, who's just awesome. It's just like, this is a movie that just oozes like creativity and charisma from every corner, and I love it every time. I love it more every time I watch it.
It has such a personality to it, especially for that original coming out in 1990, and then what we would see, because we had a bit of a break. We'd have superhero movies sprinkled throughout the 90s, but they didn't really gain some traction until what we had Blade and X-Men coming out in the later 90s. And you look at something like Blade, and I know that's kind of going through a lot of issues right now, but it's such a darker take. And I think, especially what we see at the box office with horror consistently producing, and what we've seen in the past with that big superhero wave where MCU stuff that's appointment going to the theater. We know what day that's being released. We're getting our tickets early. And moving past that, because it was same old, it seemed like, and a lot of people ended up jumping off that train. But when you kind of take that idea that we've seen with superheroes, and then you find that marriage with horror, like I think Darkman does, it's got a fun bit of comedy, it's got that dark sci-fi element to it, that it is bringing that audience back, because it's melding in that love for horror and what really does sell at the theater right now. You have a chance to be scared. You have a chance to see something gross on screen, and it's not your typical Thor or Captain America. And I think that's what Darkman excels at. It has such a personality for 1990, and that has held up even watching it in modern times now, which is why I think it is really ripe for a sequel. I would hope that it would be able to live up to that quality. I wish Sam Raimi would come back and direct it and write another a direct sequel to that, just because the first one opens up so much fun lore. To really have a proper sequel would be great.
Absolutely. And it's like, I personally, as someone who's such a big fan of the original, it's only been for a few years, you know, it's only been for maybe 5-6 years now that I've been watching it consistently and like really loving it for what it is. But I have not seen the sequels, and I want to, but at the same time, it's kind of like, I don't necessarily, because it's not the same team, it's not anybody coming back, it's like, it's a little bit of a put off. But I think before this comes out, I will like watch them. But I'm very excited. Hopefully this does get more of a push, this does get picked up. Now I think another fun thing, you know, we're dropping all kinds of fun little knowledge behind the scenes bits. Luke and I actually knew about this for like a good solid year. I should say we knew that they were working on it. Because our good buddy Francis Galuppi, who, if those of you who don't know, he did the Last Stop in Yuma County, which
Fantastic film. Go watch it.
fantastic movie, absolutely worth it. Go check it out. He's doing not Evil Dead Burns, but the next Evil Dead movie that they just had all the casting announcements for. So we were such big fans of his movie at our first Fantastic Fest. I interviewed him once. We brought him back on to do a spoiler review for his movie. And it was at the end of that we were just talking like, shop and shooting the shit. And he was just like, yeah, so just so you know, I'm making an Evil Dead movie. They offered me Darkman, but I didn't have a good story for it. So I felt bad if I pursued it. And he's like, so I said, I can't believe I'm going to turn it down, but I'm going to turn it down. And they were like, no problem. You want to do Evil Dead? And that's how it all happened. And it's just like, we've known now for a while that Darkman, they've been looking to pick it up. And it's nice to hear they have something. But again, I wish that it was just a little bit more concrete news.
Yeah, especially something we can kind of really sink our teeth into and kind of have at least a connotation of what the direction was going to be, because I know it's promising. They have a script, and they have the want to actually do something in the Darkman space, but you always look at that and say, yeah, we're in a different spot than we were in 1990, but is Darkman a big enough selling point for someone to say we want to do an action set piece like this? Because you look at 1990s Darkman, it really does go into some interesting places. It was surprising that they were able to accomplish so much with that. So I'd love to see it, but I'm curious if there is ever going to be able to find that audience for Darkman to say, yeah, let's really put a big backing toward this and treat it like it's got that huge cult following, but to treat it like, hey, this is a big deal coming into the box office. It's a direct sequel. We have Liam Neeson back, because there's a lot of story to tell. It's just like, can you create that magic again?
Absolutely. This is one that Adrian, next time I come down, remind me, we're going to watch, or you come up here, we're going to watch Darkman, because this is one I want you to watch.
I was just looking at it on Google and it looks super dope. And yeah, I'm down. Let's send it.
It's one of those, it's like Big Trouble in Little China. It's kind of like, it's just such a weird idea. It just kind of exists, and I'm happy it does, and I wouldn't change anything about it. It's like, it's just perfectly weird, and it makes me happy, and it's food for my soul. Like,
there's like no critique of that film. You know, there is really no critique. It's just like, you turn it on, you have so much fun with it. Liam Neeson is fantastic in it.
And like Necro said here, yeah, it's like that. If you see just that scene, it's like, you gotta see this movie. Like, what the fuck was that?
It's like what you want out of a superhero story, to be honest, because it has that dark element to it. It has that comedy aspect to it. I love anything that's got that darkness, and Liam Neeson just really taps into that character and in the wackiness of everything in that world. But then when he's got his wrappings off, man, some of that stuff is gross. I love it.
It is. The practical effects are very well done too. Okay, funny but serious question. Do you think Pumpkinhead versus the Creeper movie would be an actual good or even fun versus horror flick? Personally, I do think there's a market for versus films still. I think that they can be done well. I think that we're going to really see some of that materialize a little bit with this Pooniverse stuff. Because having that giant crossover, I mean, say what you will, those movies have still been producing and they've still been making money, and it's one of those things where it's like, I think that might be a good test, but I still think eventually, because I mean, you got to think like Godzilla versus Kong still happens, it's like that people always want like crossovers with, like, I know the big one that'll never happen is Justice League versus Marvel. I just don't see that ever being a thing, but I mean, crazier shit's happened. But I think the ones that really stick out to me, like these little off-brand kind of lower tier characters, I'm not saying anything against them, I love them. I could see that, especially like we just talked about at the beginning of the show here, with streaming, needing content, things kind of getting dusted off a little bit. You might see more grander universe crossover shit, but I don't know. With that one specifically, I couldn't say, but I think it would be fun to see versus films again.
I think it would be great to see versus films. I think there's certainly a niche in there just to really have fun and maybe don't take it too seriously in terms of the lore that each different character's coming from and how it works into the story. As long as it stays true to some elements to it, and just go in just being like, hey, I've been wanting to see these two iconic characters go at it. So what kind of story can you wrap around this to make it make some sense? And then just to be able to see them flex their muscles and how they would take each other on. Like Pumpkinhead versus the Creeper. I think both those franchises, they're some juice left in the tank there to at least reboot them and try to restore them to some sort of glory if they wanted to go that route. I think Pumpkinhead has been left on the table for far too long and not really getting anything interesting out of those properties. That is one that I could easily see, like if Shudder picked that up and did like exclusive Pumpkinhead films and things. I think maybe that would be my to get those franchises in some sort of direction in terms of maybe one or two films to be like, okay, at least we have. Doesn't even have to be something that is epic. It just has to be something like, okay, we got a decent win for where these franchises have been, and then maybe start looking at versus films, because I do think there's a market as well, even if those were just directly released, on Shudder or something like that, depending on the properties. Because it's like Freddy versus Jason was such a big deal. Alien versus Predator was a huge
I was
deal as
literally
well.
about to bring that up. I was like, I take back what I said earlier. That's going to be the test because we know that's coming. I think it's a pretty, I think with the box office and everything, it's a very solid conclusion. We're going to get that eventually. That's going to be your true test about versus films.
I think so as well, especially when we have that path. It looks like both of those franchises are actually building, restoring quality and having an audience that's going to be built in there. So I think that will be the big test to see can we go forward here, because I think there is some interesting stories to tell. I think Darkman versus Punisher would be a lot of fun.
Darkman versus Punisher could be fun. It sounds like a comic for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, like Darkman in and of itself is one of those things where it's like, I'm so precious about it. Just I wanting an official sequel first, and then I think I'll be more comfortable about putting that in crossover territory.
That's what
I
think. I think you have to build the world first,
yeah,
and then be able to, even if it's not going to be something that's going to be such a huge deal in the universe, at least just get the properties back out there, introduce them, and then try a versus film after that.
yeah, and absolutely, dude, no problem at all. I mean, we love questions like that. And it's like the creature effects Pumpkinhead. You don't have to twist our arm to talk about Pumpkinhead. We do love it. I think we really, one of these Octobers or something, we got to find an excuse. I know we're cooking a list that's going to be a pretty big list involving some critters. We might have to give some Pumpkinhead some proper love on that one.
Yeah,
because we talk about that one off air all the time. Like we do like Pumpkinhead. There's a ton of great critters that we love. I mean, just shit, Critters is one that I'm excited on. We need to touch back on the idea crossover movies. This is the perfect time, Luke. We get to talk about it again. This motherfucker had the best idea like 2 years ago, and I love him. He always has the best ideas. But it's one of those things where he said this, and it just makes perfect sense because they're both the Chiodo brothers, and it's Critters meets or versus Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I mean, it writes itself, folks. We gotta have this. I need this. This is like perfect Shudder Screambox reboot material. Let's fucking do it.
and I think that title there specifically is, you hear that, and the fun, the potential of fun you get in your gut when you hear something like that. That's what versus film should be. It's like, let's just go for it. Let's go crazy. Let's go balls to the wall. Let's flex our muscles and really just see what we can get, because that's what those films are about. It's an end all be all. Who's going to win, and I think that's really what we should just tap into, have a good time with it, and not take it too seriously.
Hell, Ghoulies would be a great crossover too. Ghoulies versus Critters. I mean, like you could really go all over the place with some of those. Like we say, like B tier horror characters, and it's like I think those are some of my favorites. But like Leprechaun is one that if we get that back on track, we could find something to cross over with him. I mean, like there's so many fun avenues you can go, especially like if you have the team that just did the short film for that.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, the Stream guys, like Jesus, they nailed that. So it's like there's a lot of potential. And I do really think that versus films will be back on the table again. I just think that like we were saying, there's a couple opportunities in the future here to really test that. And I just hope that we can get some fun ones because yeah, there would be some good shit. And again, it doesn't just have to be Freddy versus Jason, which I'm not turning down. Like I like that. I'm glad we could get another, sure, but like these ones, I don't know. I'm just more excited about stuff like this personally.
They'll have to do like a Billy versus Krampus, for like a Christmas holiday special. See what happens.
Necro, I think very much for Stephen King adaptations into series. I bet that's what's going to happen. I bet you're going to see a lot more Stephen King like books just get there. Like maybe the Langoliers, I know, is one that's getting tossed around. It's probably going to get like limited series or like 2 or 3 season arcs of that. I think that's where you're going to see it. So I agree.
Yeah, I think especially we had that
Ooh.
as soon as it had come out. I think, looking at that, there were so many properties from Stephen King being eaten up and talked about being like, oh, this is getting an adaptation. This is getting an adaptation. Now it's like, with how many people were positive on Welcome to Derry, and I know we're going to have Carrie coming out at some point, where it's like, if Carrie ends up being a huge hit, I think, Stephen King properties are probably flying off the shelf right now in terms of what they want to try and be able to produce to turn them into TV series. But if Carrie's a hit, I think, we're going to start seeing so many different avenues for those properties to roll out for like 8 episodes or several seasons of something.
Yep. And then they're going to give us, once we hit it big, right, guys, they're going to give us Silver Bullet. We're going to get Cycle of the Werewolf. That's all we want.
Cycle of the Werewolf.
That's all we want. There was another gentleman on Twitter a few years ago, a filmmaker we like, who said that, and we were like, yes, but we want it. Like it's like we have to make a movie though. But this is actually great because we were just talking about Wishmaster last week, and I didn't know too much about it, but I ended up watching my son watches these like animated character videos, like they go through the evolutions of characters, and I saw that one, and I just happened to watch it. And just to get more familiar with it, and like abso-fucking-lutely, Wishmaster and Leprechaun would be like a perfect combination to make them go off against each other. They just have the same zany, wild energy. Well, what's this? Sorry, everybody watching the thing for the first time. Oh, hell yeah, Stephanie. Well, enjoy. I hope you like it.
Fantastic. That is such a pivotal film for any horror fan.
Agreed. Well. Why don't we move on into the I guess this would be the final story?
Yes,
but
correct.
I did think of something, and I just want to mention it because we can maybe save it for next week if there's a little bit more, if we feel like we want to expand upon it. But I did want to mention that there's a director that both Luke and I are big fans of, who's getting to tackle a very special franchise that means a lot to us. That is Jamari Hollander.
Yes, Jamari Hollander.
He is tackling the official prequel to the Rambo franchise. So I think that at least mention a couple seconds of that because like that's a very big franchise to us. That's one that we both love a lot. And I don't know, I've kind of not been big on this whole prequel idea. They kind of pitched the same thing for John McClane for the Die Hard movies. I'm not huge on it, but I'm not gonna lie, when you get somebody like a Jamari Hollander, that guy has proven himself time and time again, and especially recently with his 2 Sisu films, like he would be a great fit for a Rambo film.
Absolutely. I think you and I had even talked about it after seeing Sisu. I haven't seen the sequel to Sisu yet. It's on the top of my list because it looks fantastic. And the original Sisu is, if you haven't watched it and you love graphic action films, definitely put that one on your list because it has a lot of great pieces to it. And I think Jamari Hollander was the perfect get to direct this. My concern is that being a prequel, it's not going to have the same vibe, not going to have the same feel what we love about Rambo. Obviously, that expectation is going to be there because it's an iconic franchise. I grew up with Rambo being, one of the end-all be-all that with the Terminator, all of them were just like huge action, larger-than-life characters. So I don't know if it's going to feel the same. And I think we can expect some really great action sequences. I could always see this being a film that's like, it's a great action film. It's a great film other than it being called John Rambo. And that might hold it back from really for an audience being like, I absolutely love this film.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's. Again, I'm of two minds here. It's just, it's like I look at this and I think like, man, if this was anybody else, I'd be sitting here saying it's a terrible idea. But like again, just having a filmmaker like that, I really need to, I guess, personally, I'm just going to go in and stay positive on this. At least I want to see some footage, and I want to see kind of what the idea is going to be a little bit more. Because you're right, I think like it isn't going to have the same feel. It's going to be a bit different. I wonder how that's going to feel all in all and how it's going to translate with fans. But I think if you like, really for me, the only way you do this is I think you show Rambo getting out of boot camp or basic training and getting into Vietnam, and then just show his time there and watch him kind of become Rambo. That's the only thing I can see like how this is going to go.
I would love a complete departure, like just let down everybody and it has no action. So it's just like him going through his life and then
It's a love story.
Exactly. That's
Yeah. Romantic comedy.
It's like Hacksaw Ridge. He chooses to not use a weapon the entire time, and he saves a bunch of people, and then at the final like 5 minutes of the movie, everybody dies, and then he just turns into Rambo.
He gives that dialogue like in the First Blood where he's mumbling, you can't even understand what he's saying.
Yeah, and then are we gonna see, is his buddy from the first one that he tries to go visit, Delmar?
Is he in it? I don't know.
I don't. I'm like, are we gonna see him in it? Like,
I hope not. I mean, we don't need to like check every box, you know what I mean, and be like, oh yeah, this is a nod to that, and this is a nod to that.
Luke, I'm sorry. I think that's what it's gonna be, buddy.
I'm sure it is. But you know, it's like we could have enough fun action and create a different space. I think that's what you have to do is not fall into, oh yeah, this is a nod to this, and that's what we're gonna do. I think you just tell a story. Yeah, we'll use.
Dude, who's gonna play Colonel Trotman?
I don't know.
It's like, I don't know.
That's what it's like. It's gonna be hard. Anything you get is probably gonna be at least mildly unsatisfying because these are iconic characters, and I think that's why it's gonna be like a great action film. And everything, other than it being John Rambo and being in that universe, it's a great action film.
Yeah, that's true. I guess that's what it could be. But like I said, I want to see some more. But I figured it at least needed to get that off my chest a little bit. I wanted to expound upon it,
and we'll certainly cover that as we get deeper into it. I mean, it's such an iconic franchise, and it's got some really dark stuff to it. So hey, we can.
I think there's going to be a list soon on top of video game lists that I know you guys want one of those, and we'll be working on that. I do want to do another, but I think I want to do it as a top 10 list with you, Luke, as we do like disturbing or brutal action movies.
Yes.
I really want to go back to that because there's still a ton of stuff I left on the table there.
Yeah.
And I think like more people now would be, I think, more accepting of a list like that since we've been kind of finding our groove with these as we've been going on. Oh man. Fassbender's Trotman. Okay, I don't hate it. I could, you know what? I'll warm up to things. I'm fine. I'm an adult. I got it. It's well, I think we've left the I guess the iron in the stove. I don't know what I'm saying. Let's talk about Scream 4. So let's transition into that. Or do we still have one more story?
We have a story, but it's not a big one. We can always circle back to it because sometimes, especially doing a retrospective, we can get lost in the weeds here. So let's do Scream 4 before we do anything else because it was such a small story, so not a big deal at all.
Hell yeah, that works for me. But all righty, gentlemen. Well, we've made it through the Scream trilogy last week. We finished off with Scream 3. And I could say where we all sat with it is like, I think everybody kind of thought, had this been the end of the Scream trilogy, it would have been pretty good. Obviously, the first film, I think, was the standout for all of us. 2 was rather fun. I think we all kind of agreed that 3 had good moments, but for the most part, kind of left us feeling a little underwhelmed compared to the other 2. But I got to say, like, getting into this one, I was really, really excited to see what you guys were going to think on this one. And then Luke got me more excited before the show last week because we were just chit-chatting about Scream 4. And yeah, I mean, with this being again Adrian's first time seeing all of these, I'm always eager to see what he's got to say. So Adrian, take it away, sir. Scream 4, what do you think?
Scream 4 was definitely a pleasant experience. I found it kind of weird that we returned back to Woodbury. I don't know where they
Woodsboro.
were living, or yeah, Woodsboro. Fart, dude. All right, so I had to, man. I had to censor myself. All right, okay. No, for real this time, though. I don't know, man. If I was traumatized from all this stuff that happened in my hometown, I don't think I'd ever go back. But Cindy Prescott seems to be completely numb from everything that's happened. I'm glad that she's still holding up pretty good. You know, the movie just felt like a good old Scream movie. You know, for the first 2 acts, it paced well. They had their movie nerd moment. You know, they still obtained that with like the kids who had the, you know, first version of the meta glasses, if you will. Those guys were kind of funny. But anyway, man, I love trying to figure out who's going to be the killer. And, you know, I'm not proud of how misled I was this time. I was wondering, like, you know, are they going to switch it up? You know, and I'm glad they did by making it, you know, Sydney's cousin. The kid with the long hair, though, I didn't predict him. He
Rory.
definitely was. Yeah, he definitely was a weirdo. But anyway, yeah, it was kind of cool. But anyway, yeah. So Scream for the first 2 acts, Scream 4 was you know, typical Scream movie, right? But yeah, Act 3, once Act 3 kicked off, they completely switched it up, and that's where it really stole my heart. You know, they had us think that Sydney was potentially going to die or whatever, and they went to the hospital, and this is the first time really that the killer like seemed to actually be succeeding with their deranged plan. You know what I mean? And I love the way that it ended. I truly felt like this time, you know, I was kind of like just not expecting what was going to go down, and that was nice because I enjoyed 2 and 3 for what they were, but it definitely was starting to feel a little repetitive. I'm really glad they switched it up here for this end segment. And I'm glad that Dewey and Gail are not dead yet.
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, because it ain't gonna be great after this one. So yeah, Luke, your thoughts, sir?
I love this one. I think it's fantastic. It's like in terms of
good kills.
Lots of good kills. Very gruesome kills.
In terms of like where, if I was writing a Scream 4, I always look at this one. I'm like, okay, this is where I would absolutely go with the story and how you tell, just diverting expectations with something. Because I think it's like an M. Night Shyamalan film where it's like, what's the twist? And I think that's kind of what gets daunting about Scream is how do we make it intriguing in terms of what's familiar about the original, but also make it different. And I think that's what Scream 4 does. And I love that Sidney Prescott is back and doing a book tour because it makes sense when we talk about like 28 years later and the time jump. It makes sense for the story. That's like a natural progression where you get the most intriguing elements to it. I think this one being so many years removed from Scream 3, where it's like that idea starts creeping into your head. Well, when do you move past these events? You know, like where Adrian talked about Sidney Prescott coming back, where it's like, I don't think she would have did that 3 years, you know, prior. I think, you know, but being able to come back and be like, is this really going to happen again? And then it happens again, you know, because it's like everyone from that scenario is dead. There's nothing else we can learn. So I love that that's where we come back to. And I love how when you even get to Woodsboro, it's almost become their flag, their notoriety, where they have all the ghost face set up. You know what I mean? It almost becomes like a mocking intent because the new generation hasn't dealt with Ghostface, doesn't know anyone that has been really affected. They don't, their classmates haven't been killed or anything like that. So they don't know the gravity of the situation. I like where we find Woodsboro. And I think you feel that time jump in. Adrian mentioned like the, the archaic version of what would be like meta glasses, you know, with the straight social media and like where live streaming. It's like,
Uh-oh. Luke,
You look what? Luke, no.
This was a plan from the beginning. He's gonna get a ghost face is gonna come out.
Who's next? No, I'm just
I don't
kidding.
know.
Okay, I'm gonna take back over here. I want to say my favorite kill. Oh, there you are.
I'm
You're
back.
back. We
All right.
lost you.
Everything all froze up on me, and I don't know
Oof.
why. But I love Scream 4.
Yeah, Scream 4 is great. But go ahead, Adrian.
Man, I got kind of terrified that man broke in your house and this would be like the start of our Scream movie, you know?
I like it.
Ooh. All right. But anyway, my favorite kill was when the police officer dude got stabbed and like basically lobotomized in one hit. That was pretty crazy.
That kill's always kind of wild. Personally, for me, like this is my favorite of the sequels when it comes to Scream. Just give my like 2 cents into it. I think it's definitely feels the freshest. It's one of the ones too where I think at first I discredited this a little bit because when I first saw it, this was like prime horror movie time for me growing up. This was 2011. I was really getting into horror, and it was one of those things where it was like I was ready for this. I was excited to have another, legacy sequel to something. And I really enjoyed it when I first saw it, and it's always been a very positive spin for me. But I think really the last few years, and especially this last watch, has just really solidified for me that it's not just the fact that this was the one I saw in theaters. You know what I mean? It's not just nostalgia glasses. It's a really well done Scream movie. I really think that you could tell Wes Craven was charged to come back to this one. You could tell he was on a different wavelength when it came to how he was producing, making everything work, kind of having the purposeful, meaningful twists and turns. It's really fun stuff. It didn't just feel like we were leaning into the gimmicks of like what they did with Hollywood, as to where this one, it just really felt purposeful.
It really felt like they wanted to wow you in terms of what the twist was and what the actual narrative was going to be, because it caught me off guard when I watched it for the first time. And I think that becomes the big part of Scream. And I think that's kind of why we critique the
later ones.
Yeah, the later ones, where it's just like you fall on the conventional storytelling of, oh yeah, we could have guessed it. Where Scream 4, I never would have guessed what they were going to do. I love the way that they built the narrative, where they create these characters, and Jill is just, part of Sydney's group to an extent. So she almost becomes the afterthought, where it feels like that tropiness to be like, oh yeah, of course they're going to put extended family in here, and now she's going to be the focal point of everything. It feels so tropey and so natural for Scream that I think you tend to overlook it, because it's like, oh yeah, this is what they would do.
She takes the Jenna Ortega spot in like Scream 5 in a sense here, where it's like she is kind of just like the one that has a mentor or protector of some sorts. If you look at it, where it's like in the first in Scream 5, it's like her sister's just like hovering on top of her all the time, and like Sydney and her mom and the whole town is like, yo, we got to like take this seriously. And I do appreciate, the approach, like you guys said, of kind of them not dealing with a ghost face and it being the town's, I guess, moniker or something. It's like, it's really, really interesting, because like, I think one of the things that, and not to get like political or anything here, but like one of the things that I think is really self-referential to that and kind of makes sense is like, if you see how younger generations, and I've seen it with people, I think a little younger than me more, with how they treat events like 9/11 or Columbine, and how it's like, it's another generation's tragedy is another generation's joke, or at least it's the dark humor, whatever the hell people want to justify it with. But it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, they really lean into that here. And I think that's kind of the brilliance of it. And I think each of the best Scream movies, honestly, I know people hate this, but the best Scream movies have the best social commentary, when they really have something to say about the time they're kind of, paying homage to.
And that's where it's like, I think 3 lost it a little bit, where it just felt like, oh, we have to have that third installment out.
Ghostface goes to Hollywood.
Exactly. And where it's like the sequel, where I talk about that, falls into so many tropes, where it's like you had a natural sequel built in, because it's like you can build the tropes and then it can still be a fun Scream movie, because we're still playing with those tropes. We're going to do everything that we kind of criticized the first film for other horror films. But it's like that third one really did feel like we're trying to make a leap here. We're trying to really put together a story to really make something lucrative, where it's like taking that break, coming back in 2011. Society's in a different spot. There's way more to talk about.
Social, like you said, social media
Yep,
starting up.
the injection of social media and kind of being a big motivation. Hey, we upload all the clips online, so it lives forever, even past you um when they find out everything, after you pass away, whatever, after you get killed. It's like that is so smart, and is still talked about today, and I think that's a really intriguing motivation, and it feels natural. It feels very timely. Scream 4 feels like there was a case for an actual story to be told here, rather than Scream 3, which is kind of like, let's get another one out of this and see where we can go.
Mm-hmm. Now I gotta know, gentlemen, favorite. Instead of going for kills first, let's go with favorite moments. What was the moment that stuck out to you most in Scream 4?
Obviously, got to be that hospital scene. I loved the way that it went down. I loved how I didn't expect what was going to happen next. Everything about it. The setting too. I really like that sterile environment, like bad stuff happening there. Just that whole vibe of kind of like you're in a place that's supposed to be safe and it's very unsafe. And the blood, the visual of the blood draws a nice contrast to the white environment, which I'm glad I mentioned that, because I felt like the cinematography going on with like the colors and everything, I felt like they were on to something a little bit with this one too.
Oh yeah. Yep. And then we got another one here. I do want to mention this since you brought it up earlier. Anthony Anderson. Yes. Very, very polarizing kill. One of those ones that's just like, am I seeing that right? Like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Very effective stuff. Luke, you got a favorite moment from Scream 4?
I think just overall for this one, I really like the world building. I think that's what really speaks to me more than anything in this, because it just feels natural. It feels like we're really getting a taste of Woodsboro, where it's like, I love that Sydney is this author doing the book tour. I love that the characters they build. I mean, like, when you look at it, I think like Deputy Judy was such an intriguing character.
Oh, great addition. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
love the way that they built her character, like where Sydney's in the house and Deputy Judy's like staring at her and she says, "Oh yeah, we were in a play together." It's kind of like, that's a little weird, but then you really, you realize she means no harm, not until the end, and she's not a suspect. But it's like, I love the way that they build those little things, and even creating, like, I think you created Deputy Judy, where a lot of people love that character, and then Kirby was a character that everyone always wants to come back, where Scream 4 had a lot going for it in terms of building characters that we love in this franchise, because I think Kirby was well written. I think that's why everyone loved that character. Had a real understanding of just in general what is kind of meta, but then taking it that next step for like 2011 rather than just being a mid-90s kind of commentary. I love that aspect of it. I mean, I think the parking garage scene's fun. I think that one's really well done. I think parking garages are such an eerie spot, so to kind of really take advantage of that. And I think another one that people might criticize a little bit, but I enjoy the kind of the meta openings to this, because it feels like a scary movie film. And I'm like, I was not expecting that. And it's like, I love that they just keep going and keep going. I know that can take some people out of it, but I love that they're so self-referential to it. It's like, okay, just lean into it.
I love how it just, you saw them get murdered and then like the camera zooms out and it's just like another couple teenagers watching the movie and then somebody else gets murdered. Great shit.
I like that more, admittedly, on this rewatch, because I was going to criticize that last week, but I held back from it because I thought, okay, that's a scene where I'm like, it goes a little far, but I don't know. I guess maybe just taking my guardrails down a little bit. It's like, it's really, it is doing something different. It's doing something unique. I think you hit it right on the head when you said it feels very scary movie. Maybe that's a little bit of my own like apprehension with it. But I think for me, the scene that I found to be most exciting, and I think the scenes that I like the most, were the ones involving the film club, especially the barn scene with the screening. I loved the atmosphere. It felt very like, even though it's not in like October or anything, it's like it just felt very Halloween 5.
I know what you mean.
It's like, and I really liked the idea of them seeing the cameras again and Gail seeing the person run by them and all that. It's like, it's all really fun stuff. And I think it just sets the stage for some even though I don't think anybody even dies there, It's like,
Yeah.
I think it's just a really cool setting. And I think it just also, like you said, harkens back to the whole Woodsboro feels like a character again. It feels like a town. It feels like a community, and less so just like the place where Sidney Prescott came from, you know?
And I do like the one scene. I don't know if you talked about it when I had my technical difficulties, but the one kill where it's he goes, "I'm not in your closet," and then we have to watch the friend get killed.
Yes.
I think it's such a mean, like, kind of way to go, because it's like we go one step farther. He's like showing her off, and then tosses her out the window. It's like, geez, that stuff. It just feels very mean spirited, and I love that the way they subvert the expectation. Be like, oh yeah, I'm not in your closet. I'm right across the way, and you have to watch me kill your friend. I think that one was a pretty brutal kill.
Definitely. And I think that's one of the ones that really, again, harkens back to the brutality of the first one.
Yeah.
Where I do feel like we lost that a little bit. I think the Randy kill was certainly pretty visceral, but also I think it was just because the connection to that character we had. But like, yeah, the gruesomeness of the kills in this are the blood's turned up quite a bit.
Yeah, the gore is up. I did notice in Scream 2 and 3 that it was just kind of like knife and blood, but it wasn't really like blood gushing out of your like wound type stuff like we saw in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I always think back to just like that opening shot, not even Drew Barrymore, but her boyfriend, Steve, is it?
Yeah.
Just with his guts.
Got
like,
it.
good
Yep.
Lord. Like, that's just like such a unnecessarily brutal death. Like, it's so fucking crazy. But I really do think that this is, to me, the second best Scream film. I think like this is the one that I would not fault anybody if they wanted to just like watch Scream 1 and then watch this, because I think even if you didn't have the context of the other films other than a few references, you could really like sell this one as just the spiritual continuation. You know what I mean? Like there'd be a couple mentions here and there, but like you could really just have them go one right after another.
Yeah, I think 4 for me sits in second place for what I've seen thus far in the Scream franchise. I think this film actually, for me, for how well done this film is and where I like that the story goes and where we see our characters in this one, in order for something to be in front of this, it has to be an iconic film. It has to be something that, you know, has been around for ages. It has to be like a Friday the 13th, like original Nightmare on Elm Street. That's what would have to be in front of this to not be my favorite. And that's why Scream is such an iconic film. You can't put that not at your number one spot when you're talking about this. But this is like a really, really strong sequel installment in the Scream franchise. It's like it does everything right for my taste and what I'm looking for with these characters. And it at times really does feel mean, which I don't think necessarily 2 or 3 felt mean at certain times, but I do think 4 really does tap into that, where it's like, who the hell knows who's going to die in this thing?
Absolutely. What up, Gory? Welcome. Liver alone. Yeah, I love it. They're having a conversation about the Void and a couple other things there. Last Shift, yeah. Both the same. Yeah.
Malum.
Yep, Last Shift and Malum. But yeah, I think overall this is definitely, like I said, high point for me. Now, real quick, just because I said I was going to bring it up, favorite kills. Go for it.
For me, I would go with
Closet.
the closet one. I mean, again, it just works so well, and we could have just ended it by. I forgot on this watch. I was like, oh, she just gets stabbed, and then I was like, oh wait, now we throw her out the we're showing her off at the window and all that stuff. I was like, man, this one just kept going. So that one easily sticks out in my head. I think it was such a well composed kill, and just them having to watch is just wild. And then how the cops eat it shortly afterward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the cops eating it with Anthony Anderson getting lobotomized. Honorable mention to, I'm forgetting the name. Jill, is it? Right?
The main girl? We don't know what the context is.
Jill or Charlie?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, her getting like defibrillized, like her, you know what I mean? And then getting shot in the chest afterwards, and then she has to bleed out as opposed to getting killed instantly, like Sidney Prescott is known for.
Yeah, the defibrillator scene was going to be what I chose. That's one that always stood out to me, just because it's like so, you know, everything's like it should make sense. It all is just like kind of going up, and then you're just like, damn, like that's just thinking on your feet. You know what I mean? Like it is really good stuff. But I really like the that scene, and then I would have to say, I think like as far as shock and just like viscera, I'd go closet scene. But Anthony Anderson's is also up there. It's like just 3 really solid kills in this movie. And then also, I mean, not gonna lie, I really don't like when oh god, the Charlie's friend, when he dies and stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's really sad. But he's
Yeah.
like, I'm not gay. I'm not gay. It's like, or no, doesn't he say I'm gay or what?
Yeah,
was
I'm
it?
gay, if that helps.
Yeah, if that helps. He's like, yeah, because it's like he's trying to appeal to the rules.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah,
That's the
it's
only one that stands now
Mhm.
is but I liked watching this one, I didn't remember exactly the definitive end to it, and I'd always thought just like, everyone's like, always we want Stu back, and it would have been like, if they didn't kill Jill and she just went away for a while, and then she met Stu, and then we kind of do like a Natural Born Killers thing with those two going against Nev Campbell, would have been a fun fan fiction.
Oh, dude, I think we could still get there with 7. Jill, because like they are referencing her coming back, so
We'll
like
have to see.
that would be so good. Jill and Stu teaming up
Yeah.
in a mental facility. I love it. But yeah, I agree with Nicholas there. Yeah, it's just one of those. It just comes out of nowhere, and the setup is great. Yeah, I just think overall this is like probably one of, if not, and I wouldn't say just one of the best sequels in Scream, but if we're talking like legacy sequels, just in general, this is a very consistent movie, and I'd have to put it up against a real definitive list to be sure. But I think this is probably one of the best legacy sequels when it comes to horror films that we've had in a while.
I think so as well. I think this one, again, I love everything about it in terms of where we see the characters, a lot of the kills, and just Woodsboro in general, I think is really well done. This one feels right. Wes Craven directing, Kevin Williamson back writing. It just feels like the magic is there of what we expect with the Scream franchise. And really does take us on that ride of where I don't know where the hell we're going with this thing by the 3rd act. And I love that aspect of it because there's some things in here that even big Scream fans would find shocking, if you don't know the story going into this one, because I think it is just really well done. So yeah, this is honestly in the spectrum of just horror sequels in general, this is one of the strongest ones, I feel.
Agreed. Well, folks, that's going to bring us to the end of the Scream 4 review there. Definitely happy to hear that we don't have any outliers there with this one. Because again, like I said, I just think like coming out of it a couple of years ago, I was just saying like Scream 4 is definitely, I still think, and again, I'm happy to know it's not just nostalgia. It was a very solid sequel. And yeah, I am curious to see what Adrian's going to think going forward with the rest of these, because this is where Luke and I tend to get a lot of heat the next couple weeks, so we will show up padded with knee pads and everything, and we'll be ready to rock and roll, because I know it's going to be tough. But these next couple weeks, people are going to get mad at us, but I'm ready for it because I'm sorry, but these next 2 movies are a little questionable. But
and it's kind of rough to leave off with Scream 4 because I remember that I watched Scream 4 before we went and saw Scream 5, and being like, oh man, I'm so excited as to what kind of story we're gonna get, and I thought it was everything should have worked for me, and it's just like something was missing, but we'll get it deeper into it next week.
Yeah, and then Necro here, yes, good point. This is the last Wes Craven Scream movie, so this is the last one that he had any involvement in, which it's very sad. But I think that we're gonna all really see what the series has in it and how they're gonna figure things out when it comes to the Scream 7. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm hoping that they really can pull it together. I have no idea. Like I said with our Scream 3 review, I really hope it's not just going to be AI doing the voices and having all these people come back for that or whatever. It's like that is going to literally, I'm going to be so upset. I will cry. I'll cry and I'll shit in the theater. So I got to stop threatening that. We're going to get banned. So
only if we show it in the short, and we will.
True. We will. But all righty, folks, that's going to wrap us up here for another great episode here of the Sunday Scaries. Love talking with all you guys as usual. Lots of great questions tonight. Lots of great stuff is submitted. I mean, I really love questions, like I said, with the whole Pumpkinhead versus obviously it was the Creeper and things like that. I think those are all good fun, and I definitely think there's a future, especially eventually as we get down where we might have to do something like that, because Luke and I are always pitching little concepts and things. We've had a show in mind. It's got a title where we kind of do that, but I'd love to just like have even if it's a live or something where we just basically pitch a concept and then just let people come on, pitch their ideas and stuff. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
could be cool. So, because I think that some of the
creative
ideas
exercise.
I mean, I think like some of the best ideas that I've seen for continuations of some of these franchises have come straight out of our comment section. So,
oh yeah,
and I steal every single one. I steal it, I write it out, and then I send it off to Hollywood. Yep. So if any of you guys have been planning on making any of those, too late. So there you go. Sorry, I'm just trash. That's what it is. But no, I wouldn't do that to you.
Yes, you would.
I would. Yes.
It's a liar and a cheat.
Hell yeah. But alrighty. With that, what do we have this week? Isn't it Strangers?
Yeah, we have The Strangers coming out. Whistle is also coming out this Friday. Yep. We do have feelers out, so hopefully we get some screeners. If not, we will be at the theater to experience Strangers in all of its glory. I'm so excited. Put an end cap on that trilogy and see what the future holds. But yeah, those two are certainly coming out this week. Got a list coming out on Friday as well. But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe something skated by us. I'll have to look, see if maybe something else is coming out.
I think you got it. I think those are the big ones. And I know you got a list coming up this week. And then I'm working on two big ones. We're going to start really trying to supercharge it by getting you guys an extra list every couple of weeks here. So we're starting to kind of get the wheels in motion for that, because we've been really working hard to get ahead. And now that we've been ahead for a little bit, we're able to kind of start doubling up. So I'm excited, because I think the next leg of 2026 here, I know we're only a month in, but I'm really feeling like this spring into summer is going to be a pretty big bump for us, because I think we got a lot of big plans, a lot of fun stuff coming. So I'm excited. I'm definitely looking forward.
We got the Speedos out and the tanning lotion. So it's going to be a busy summer.
Yeah. I feel you. Speedos, tanning lotion, it's all good stuff. And unfortunately, yes, we do lives. We do them every Sunday. And unfortunately, this one is ending. So I'm sorry you got here late, but we are here live 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Sunday for the Sunday Scaries. Just us with our buddy Adrian over there, who is always working as a great producer and all that for us. But thank you guys so much. I think I'm going to call it there. I'm a little sleepy, but I got to push through. I got a couple more gruesome films I got to watch, and I'm going to watch the shortest one right after this, I think, just to get it over with. We'll see. So we'll wish me luck, fellas.
It's still 2.5 hours.
It's this one, thankfully, is like 70 minutes. So that's why I'm like, it's the last one I got to do. And I'm like, if I can get this, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So, alrighty. Well, thank you all. And we will catch you guys next week. And we'll hopefully survive whatever Rennie Harlan has cooked up for us in Strangers Chapter 3. So all ends well, something, I don't know. But until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
I'm Luke Janesco.
I'm Adrian MJ.
And remember, stay scared.
Do the horse shit, gonna do it live, 'cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass. 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 Splattercast, gonna smash your ass.